Steve, I want to talk. Let's start with the ACC
There you go.
because
Yeah.
I'm excited about this game.
Friday
Should I
night.
be Clemson and Wake?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Clemson and Wake. What happens here? And I don't know. Is it going to be close? What's the line?
I see Clemson -7, total around 55.5, 56. Here's the deal. Dabo's won 13 in a row. Wake Forest has not been or not had Clemson's number, and that's what bothers me here about Wake Forest in this situation is I think back to last year's game. Clemson wins 48-27, and last year was the year to get Clemson, right? The offense struggled. That was the year. Wake goes to the ACC title game. They still can't beat Clemson. In that game, Wake comes in averaging 44 points a game, 500 yards of offense, and they get just dominated. Clemson holds them to 36 yards rushing, and that's where it gets to me with this matchup. I like the matchup for Clemson because when you think about that Wake Forest offense, right, what are they, that slow mesh, and how do you attack that? If you have four dogs up front
Blow it up.
that could just put pressure, blow it up, attack the mesh,
Yeah.
get penetration, anything to get Sam Hartman off that spot, Clemson has that. And that's why I like them in this matchup. And when I think back to last year, I said last year was against Clemson. Clemson scored the most points against a Power 5 team last year against Wake, 48 points. So I think Clemson's offense is better than it was last year. I mean, I would hope so. I love their running backs. I think they could do both run and throw it on Wake Forest. So I like Clemson, which sets up a monumental game next week with NC State going to Clemson.
Man, yeah, and last year they got in the backfield. I mean,
Yes.
I think they sacked them early, and that was the number one thing. The head ball coach down there, Clausen, said that if we want to be any better this year, we got to protect. And I don't know if it's going to be any different. So that's a stay away for me. Florida, Tennessee, 10.5-point favorites. Like, I know it's a kneeling and everything, but how about the fall of Anthony Richardson over a month period and the fall of like Florida? You start the year and you're like, oh man, what a tough test. They beat Utah.
Yeah.
This kid looks like a Heisman candidate. And then they kind of lay an egg the next week, and now they're 10-point dogs.
It's weird because I think you're going to have people that have watched this game their whole life see 10.5 and blindly bet Florida, knowing the success that Florida's had. 16-17, won the last 5 in a row. This is the biggest favorite Tennessee has been in this game since our database goes back to gambling, which I think is 1976. So in my lifetime, I've never seen this happen before. I think the next biggest favorite Tennessee's been in this matchup was 2012 when they were a 5-point favorite, and they lost that game, I think, 30-13. So this has to be it for Tennessee. And I know it feels like we've been saying that since they won a national title in 98. But when you look at all things considered, your offense, the guys you have coming back, going on the road already and getting a great road win against Pitt, against who I think is a good team, you're favored to win this game. You have the advantage, I think, at every position on the field. So this has to be it. The problem is that monkey that's been Florida on Tennessee's back. What could Florida do? Obviously, Billy Napier wants to run the football. And when you talk to people around the program or people that have covered their games, it's been a different Anthony Richardson from week 1 to weeks 2 and 3. And that's him not being involved in the run game. I think it was one designed run last week against South Florida, whereas you think about the Utah game, he's running up and down the field.
Yeah.
He makes the jump pass on a 2-point conversion. He still doesn't have a touchdown pass this year.
That's
He
wild.
does not have a touchdown pass.
So the Heisman thing might be out the window.
I mean, if he wins this game,
Yeah.
who's got 2 better wins than Florida? I think Florida tries to slow it down. The Tennessee offense is tricky. When it's humming, it's going. They go down 10-0 to Pitt. They come back, they take the lead at halftime, and then there's no points in the third quarter, and it ultimately goes to Notre Dame overtime. So I think it's a big spot for Hendon Hooker. He's been sensational since taking over as a starter. 35 touchdowns, 2 picks. I'm not betting the game, but if I have to take it in my office pools, stuff like that, I'm going to lay the points with Tennessee.
What's your favorite memory of this rivalry over the years?
Ooh, we were actually talking about this at work last night. Al Wilson and T. Martin beating him.
Wow, Al
because
Wilson.
that's my high school wheelhouse. That was, I was dying to take a visit to Tennessee. They sent you the envelopes with the checkered end zone
That's so
on the
cool.
envelope.
Oh.
Like, it was awesome.
Oh.
And they were, I want to say, the last school I can remember, like, while I was getting, like, they still had athletic, like, all the athletes lived in the same dorm, athletic dorm. Like, that was like their own part. Like, it just sounded awesome.
Yeah.
And every year it was, can Peyton Manning beat Florida? Can Peyton Manning Florida? No, 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 no. He leaves. T. Martin comes in. They beat Florida and they win the national championship.
Yeah.
So that whole culmination is pretty crazy. The uniforms, all of it that comes together. I just think about like the consistency Florida's had just in this game,
Yep.
and think about how many coaches both teams have had in, say, the last 10 years. It's crazy.
I easily lost track personally. I got a guy with a flat top in there somewhere on Florida, right?
Butch,
yeah.
probably Butch.
Probably Butch. I got a Hail Mary in my head somewhere over the last 10
Yep.
years, but it's not. It hasn't been. The legacy has carried this rivalry more than anything, right? And maybe if we could give Tennessee some advice, we've had a monkey on our back. Finally got it off a couple years ago.
Here's some advice. We've lost, 14 of 15, 21 of 23.
Yep.
Cool.
Just let it go, dude.
You won some ball games. I remember the 2019 win like it was yesterday, and I
Yes.
don't remember things. So
Yeah.
gave that to us.
Thank you.
Y'all gave us a hoops natty coupled with a Tech win, coupled with an Orange Bowl that we'll never forget.
Let's say you're Tennessee and every year in the Sweet 16 or
Yeah.
wherever they.
Yeah.
Well,
Rick Barnes is a good coach.
I like Rick Barnes and I like watching Tennessee. We're giving Tennessee athletics too much time here, but I would say the biggest advice I would have would be, and you kind of hinted at it, is if you're a Tennessee player, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
It's already bad. It can't get worse.
Mm.
Go out and play, man. Just go out and play.
And this is the thing also, is like, you have to get this one.
Yeah.
You still have Kentucky, you still have Alabama, you still have Georgia on your schedule. None of that's going to mean anything if you don't get this one, and you have to get this one.
Bevel Conway too, by the way.
Yeah, I think the guys in the desert too think the world of Tennessee. When you look at what Tennessee has been this year against the spread, 2 MAC teams, I believe, but then they go on, like, they weren't ranked to start the year. Then they, I think they're 24 when they go to Pitt. They're 7-point favorite at Pitt.
Yeah.
Pitt won the ACC last year. Like, I think Vegas thinks a lot of this team, and now you look at this being the first time they've ever given double digits in this rivalry. So a lot is on Tennessee's plate, but I think they have the goods this year.
That surprised me. Yeah, the Pitt line. So yeah, you're right. All right, what road favorite would you rather take? Would it be USC or would it be Oregon?
Bo Nix is my kryptonite. If I have him, they don't cover. If I go against him, he plays his butt off. If I have the under, he plays great, which happened last week. If I have the over, he plays like poop. And I just can't take him in that scenario with Oregon. I think it's a big spot for Oregon because this is a big game for Dan Lanning, first-year head coach. Like, if you go, 2-2 to start the year, that's not what people in Eugene are going to want. So I'm going to take the better quarterback in Caleb Williams, who I think is in a really tough spot going to Corvallis. One of my worst memories of playing was, I believe, Oregon State had lost 12 or 14 straight Pac-10 games. And I believe my first road trip, we went up there, and that's when the stadium was like 20,000 people. Like, it was awful.
Yeah.
And they gave it to us. They snapped their losing streak against us in '96. And I will never forget what the people were telling us as we were going off the field. That's what I think of when I think of Corvallis, Oregon.
Mean things.
There was some evilness being said. Like, I get it. Like, how long it was for them to win one Pac-10 game,
wow.
I could see myself saying the same thing. So,
Doug, do you hate Corvallis more than anybody? I mean, outside of the Eugene, I'm saying you got this thing, man. I didn't even know. We struck a nerve lobbing you this game.
Just like Macon says he remembers that win against Virginia Tech,
yeah.
I remember that loss at Oregon State. Like, it's just something I've been back there since. I love that place.
Yeah.
What they've done in that stadium is crazy. I remember going up to Singleton, their running back. Remember the year They smoked Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. Like, I thought they were one of the best teams in the country
Right.
that year. The year before that, we won the Pac-10 and we beat them. And I remember telling Singleton after the game, I said, "You guys are going to win the Pac-10 next year."
Yeah.
And they sure as hell were the best team that year for sure.
The
Even though Washington beat them and went to the Rose Bowl.
home
but
of
they were
Steven
better.
Jackson.
Oh,
How did such an amazing running back end up in Corvallis?
Beavers are 3-0.
I just want to admit something. And the Beavers, we love betting the Beavers. I like betting the Beavers. Beavers are a nice, like, 11 p.m., let's just settle in whether we're chasing or we're up. Betting an Oregon State game is fun. I want to admit something. Last week, you were talking about Bo Nix. I tried to place a large BYU bet and got bailed out by being timed out. I was playing Mario Kart with Waylon, and when he was like, one more game, one more Grand Prix, and we're on Rainbow Road, and I'm like, damn it, man, I'm losing. I'm going to lose money if I don't get this BYU bet in, right? It just doesn't. It's Bo Nix. Luckily, kiss it to God, it was timed out. So I want to admit that and be transparent. I tried to bet BYU last week.
okay.
Yeah, ugly.
Didn't we give out Oregon as a show despite Bo?
I probably faded. I probably
Despite
faded the show.
Okay.
Okay, so Arkansas, Texas A&M. Texas A&M! Arkansas, Texas A&M! What's going to happen on the field? You weigh in.
Here's my analysis. Max Johnson, son of Brad
Johnson.
will
Trick shot king.
Steve's going to disagree. Will lead the Aggies to yet another win.
Arkansas's pass defense is the worst in the country, and that's not good if you're playing in the SEC now, knowing what teams are capable of in the passing game. But is Texas A&M ready to take advantage of that? I don't think so. I'm not there yet. They still look super vanilla on offense, and as bad as their pass defense is against the yards, when I talk about Arkansas, they're number one in sacks. So I think that pressure offsets things. Drew Sanders, linebacker transfer from Alabama, is an absolute stud. Former 5-star, couldn't get healthy in Tuscaloosa, transfers over to Arkansas. He's been their best player on defense. So I think when it comes down to it, if Texas A&M were to take advantage of that insufficiency of Arkansas's pass defense, KJ Jefferson, Rocket Sanders, there's plenty of talent on the Arkansas offense. I do prefer Kendall Briles' play calling towards Jimbo. So I lean Arkansas to win this game.
Steve, the Hogs are 11-4 against the spread as a dog under Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
5
My worry
outright
is
wins.
they're not going to be underdog by kickoff. I worry this game shifts.
Not some
Keep your eye on that
Johnson.
line.
Not some Johnson. Max Johnson. That's what you're getting. That's what Arkansas is getting. That's what the Hogs are getting. They're getting Max Johnson. And by the way, I tried to plug it earlier, but I don't know if you guys even see the Brad Johnson trick shots on the internet. Do you guys see this?
Oh, Brad Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah,
That.
come on.
Oh, Brad Johnson?
Oh, yeah, here
yeah,
we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever stood next to Brad Johnson?
No, he's a big man, though.
He's a monster, man.
So is Chris Winkie.
Yes.
Chris Winkie's one of the biggest dudes ever. Like, rolls out of bed 270, you know?
Did you ever sack Wanky?
No, I wouldn't want to sack Winkie. No, thank you. Okay. All right. Order in the court. Here we go. So we got Wisconsin, Ohio State. You think Ohio State cover there?
Actually, was thinking about Wisconsin first half.
Okay.
If you can get an inflated number,
Okay.
I think it's around 18.5. You might be able to get 11 in the first half, but I think that's your only chance in this game because if you're not around by halftime, it's toast.
Okay.
So if they can get a turnover early, bleed some clock, run the football, which we know Wisconsin wants to do, I think I could take a shot with Jim Leonard in that and him calling the defense against Ohio State. I think he'll have, plenty of answers, hopefully, or I should say answers, different ways to attack.
Distractions.
Distractions, eye candy, whatever for CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
So I would take a shot with – I don't love it. I would take a shot with Wisconsin. In the
Steve, speaking of distractions and eye candy, I love the Jaguars pre-snap stuff. Go take a look at the Jags. Dougie P, as an aside, is chefing up some serious pre-snap stuff. They're running motion. They got to be up near the top of the league pre-snap, and they're awesome at it. All right, so UVA Cuse, one of the biggest games in college this week.
Speak of the devil, have you watched Virginia this year?
Yeah.
I have.
It's there's almost nothing pre-snap. This is a legitimate
Nice
critique.
segue too.
Seriously, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going up, for those not in the know, against our former offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, Robert and I, and Jason Beck, who's just a gentleman. And but look, I don't think there's any sort of revenge factor there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Virginia. Yeah, doesn't look like a well-oiled machine, needless to say, at this point in the season.
So you're taking cues?
I didn't say that.
Okay. What is the line in that game?
10.
Yeah.
It's been all over.
Give me Virginia.
Okay.
Especially because that wide receiver group is so good, so well coached. They weren't their best. They'll be better. Like they got, shout out to Marcus Higgins. He'll get them right, man.
They're great, but I really am. We don't need to spend too much time in this cul-de-sac. But we're not doing anything pre-snap. Make it easier on the quarterback.
A little more eye candy.
Yeah.
That's what called Dougie P. And JMU App State. Cowboy Reed, you got any analysis of that? Stanford Steve, Cowboy, you want to take that away?
Well, Stanford Steve, you had a beautiful write-up in your article today. Go Dukes is all I have to say.
Thank you, Reed. I appreciate it. I don't know why anybody's reading it and seeing how bad the picks in the column have been.
Hold on, a fucking dinner party. I'm really excited to go to this dinner party. I love my wife and I love meeting people, but I was supposed to go to Boone, North Carolina, and now I'm going to a dinner party this weekend, which I'm excited about, mind you. It's probably the best thing for my liver and for my well-being and for the show that we're not going to Boone.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, Reed, you can still go to Boone if you want. We'll fund the trip.
I feel un-American here taking James Madison in this game.
That's right.
Appalachian State has been America's team with what they've done. They still have to be sick about the Carolina game. I don't care what anyone says. Game day, the way they win last week, going to A&M, beating them. Like, it's been an unbelievable story with Chase Bryce finally finding it at quarterback. But when I look on the other side, I think about James Madison, who has more than capable team of taking this step to become a Sun Belt team. And that's where I look at the opportunity here. You have App State as high as they could be as far as a perception level across the country. And now you come in with your squad, haven't played anybody, your bodies are fresh, and you look at an opportunity you have to make some noise in your first big game as a Sun Belt team. I think James Madison has the goods here to keep it close. I like James Madison plus the point.
Wow, Reed's bobbing his head back there, and he's thinking about going to Boone, North Carolina. Listen to the full podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast streaming platforms. Wherever you want to get the podcast, you can get the podcast. Pretty simple. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Podcasts get pretty wild. This is real tame.